Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we'll be talking to you about some genius people who beat the system. It's not always easy, but human beings are constantly coming up with new, inventive, and often hilarious ways to beat the system. Sometimes rules are made to be broken, but for some people, stepping around the rules with top-tier finesse comes so naturally that it almost becomes an art form. From the passive-aggressive to the utterly brilliant, let's check out some creative thinkers who beat the system in ingenious ways. For this rundown, we're looking at some genius people who beat the system. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Parking fees are one of the worst things about owning a vehicle in the city, but this bike owner found a way to get around it. By following the rules to the nearest, he parked up between two parking zones. It looks like this brave-hearted biker isn't afraid to fit into a tight space if it means free parking. I only hope a passing ticketing officer didn't stick them with a fine just for being bold. Action fans in the excitement of a match, sports fanatics, have been known to sneak their way onto the pitch. Usually it ends up with them being rough-handled by security and escorted away. However, one fan became the exception to the rule during a 2015 soccer match between Lokomotiv Moscow and Besiktas. The avid Lokomotiv Moscow supporter, immortalized in video form, doesn't feel like being thrown out after a successful pitch invasion. Instead, with the help of a fellow fan, he goes full-blown Indiana Jones. He clears the fence by the pitch with guards in pursuit. But just when it seems his escape has been foiled by a steep drop separating him from fellow supporters, genius strikes. He whips out a scarf and hurls it upwards. His partner in crime grabs it, providing some impressive support, and he gets greeted by cheers. If this guy pursues the stuntman career, we all know he should be wise to include a link to this video on his resume. The annoying rules in certain colleges make it so that students are only allowed to hang out in the dorms of their own gender. While some would just ignore dumb rules like that, this clever couple found a way to technically obey the rules while still getting some downtime together with a tactically placed gadget outside the dorm room window and reposition the TV. They're gonna watch a movie together while sticking it to the man until it rains. When you're a big fan of a band, you'll go to great lengths for a chance to hang out with your idols. But Australian David Spargo, a fan of the band Peking Duck, exhibited a stroke of pure genius when he decided to find a way backstage at a gig. With no hope of gaining a backstage pass through conventional means, David turned to Wikipedia for a chance to meet the band, changing Peking Duck's Wikipedia page to list himself as a family to the band. He flashed the updated page to security, hoping it might convince them to let him in. Amazingly, security bought it and let him right on through the backstage area. Once there, he met the band and explained his entry methods over a few beers, much to the band's amazement. Peking Duck were so impressed they even posted about the escapade online and later called David the definition of a legend. In an interview, they say you should never meet your idols, but for David Spargo, his fan encounter couldn't have had a more legendary result. This next student deserves an honorary degree in reverse psychology. When he first received an 89.41 grade, he did the opposite of what a student would normally do when coming so close to the next grade up at 90%. Instead of asking the teacher to bump up his grade, he asked her to drop his grade by a couple of percent. By his reasoning, his parents wouldn't see how close he was to getting an A+ and would give him less of a hassle. How noble of him. But the outcome was far better than you might think. Not wanting to drop a student's grade, the professor instead bumped him up to a 90.11%, bringing him up to an A+. Whether this was reverse psychology or just a lucky break, I'd give the kid an A+ just on boldness alone. Music fans aren't the only people who are willing to bend the rules for the things they love. After a soccer fan in Turkey was banned from attending his favorite team's home grounds, he got creative to really send the message of his fan loyalty home, hiring a crane for the best view in the house. He headed to the skies, allowing him to watch his favorite team play an important match for free. Well, as long as you don't factor in the fact that it's 354 liras or $50 for the crane hire costs. Are you enjoying our list? Wait for the last but not the least entry on the list. But before we get further into the list, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more amazing videos from us. Let's continue with our list. A man in China took playing the system to new heights when he came up with this brilliant idea. He bought a refundable first-class ticket from Eastern China Airlines. Not to see the world, but to get free meals for a whole year. First-class ticket holders have access to the airport's VIP lounge, where VIP travelers eat for free. The man would casually come to the airport, enjoy his free meal, then reschedule his flight for the next day for free, and do it all over again. The airline only got up to him after he'd already rebooked over 300 times. They confronted him about it and he was forced to stop his sneaky plan. But he had one more trick up his sleeve. Airlines were legally obliged to reimburse him the full amount for his ticket And even after all the free food, he cashed that sucker in. What do you do when someone steals something from you? Steal it right back. At least that's what one Vancouver woman did when she spotted her stolen bike up for sale on Craigslist. As the police told her they couldn't handle her case that day, this brave woman decided to take justice into her own hands. She called the thief and said she was interested in purchasing the bike. They met up in a McDonald's and she immediately knew the bike was hers. She asked if she could try it out and the thief agreed as long as she promised not to ride off with it. Now who could do a thing like that? Her heart was pounding. She hopped on her bike and sped away, leaving the thief in the dust. When it comes to people pretending to be someone they're not for personal gain, the father of Reddit user Silly American is king. When the Redditor's old man found himself unable to get a booking at a busy local restaurant, he was caught again, this time posing as the Prime Minister of Morocco. Why he went for that particular fake identity is unclear, as the similarities of their appearance are a bit of a stretch. But regardless, it worked. The restaurant cleared a slot for the Redditor's father, giving him the best seat in the house. The master of deception obliged and even snapped a picture to commemorate the moment. He played the system in the most spectacular of ways. It's one thing to impersonate a public figure for one night, but what if I told you that some deceptions of this game last for years and with much higher stakes? Well, it's true. And this tale takes us to southeastern Europe, where we find this guy, Stefan Cernetic, Prince of Montenegro and Macedonia, or so the elite circles of Europe believed for years. Like any other prince, he spent much of his time making public appearances all over the European continent on behalf of the two countries he supposedly represented. Nobody ever questioned the prince's credentials, and he was even seen regularly handing out recognition awards to celebrities. But it turned out all those awards bestowed by the prince were almost as valuable as the toilet paper, because he wasn't actually a prince. In fact, there was no Prince of Macedonia, and the Montenegrin Foreign Ministry claimed never to have heard of the supposed official. Investigations by European governments found the so-called prince to be nothing more than an extremely brazen conman, assisted by an equally audacious unnamed companion. While he was ultimately caught, arrested, and charged with fraud, we can't fault this guy for the effort. After all, to fool an entire continent for years in order to live like a prince seems like a seriously ballsy way to play with the system to us. But if you ever give fake royalty a try, just make sure not to get caught, because sometimes the system comes around to play you right back. So that's it for today's video, guys. We hope you enjoyed the video. Have you ever played the system to your advantage in an ingenious way? We'd love to hear your story. Let us know in the comment section down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. With that all said and done, see you all next time. Later, everybody. Until then, signing off.